came to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but a line is the same. Ascending, word bending, burns, birth in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the pressure so clean. Hold on, you better catch a God throwing blessings. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Your success only means that.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Knight&Craig.
Hey,
I'm not Knight because it said my name right at the bottom. It says Craig Carlisle, but she is Dr. Knight.
I'm Knight.
You are. That's outstanding. How are you doing?
You know what? It's been an amazing week this week. Got some great news. Found out my identity is changing too. So, and when I say that, I mean in the literal sense of I shared in a couple episodes ago that I had experienced some identity theft.
Yeah.
And so it was so significant, y'all, that they're actually changing some information about me. So that actually does change my identity and aligns with some divine inspiration that I received about, my next steps in the future. So I'm overall, I have no complaints and I refuse to complain anyway. How are you?
I'm doing well. God is amazing. And I'm just reminded daily in my life that faith is something that is required. Faith is a noun and an action word or verb. Those who are the English folks. It can be a person, place, and it's definitely a thing.
Wow.
And I'm having to really spend the time believing that, sitting in that, understanding that, and really letting that sink in. So yeah, it's been an amazing week, amazing day, and I love it. I some people sometimes, it's funny when I'm going to jump too soon. I'm going to jump too soon, but it's easy sometimes to wallow in the things that we're don't have yet. We talked, I know you're going to do the recap, but I know we talked about how we're lacking nothing in our lives. Nothing's missing, nothing's lacking. And things may not have come yet, but that doesn't mean that they're not coming or a no. And I'm excited about the yeses that God has. I'm even excited about the no's because the no's are keeping me out of trouble. And
And we know that's a problem for you these days. So.
Yeah, it is. It is. It is. I have to shout out to Sean Brown from SLB Enterprises, SLB Global. She has a project that she's talking about, her no November. And I was like, the no for me and God, if you don't know, then you're going to know. So there's the KNOW that you have to know that the NOWs in the world are not necessarily a bad thing. Sometimes they're good for you. And I'm excited about the no's and I'm excited about the knowing the KNOWs as well. So I'd rather know a no now than wait too long and you get to know a no later and you've invested a whole lot of time. I'm tired of doing the 40-year around my blessing thing.
Right.
I'm good.
That's similar to what we talked about. And so just so you know, KNOW, that you spelled now. N-O-W. And so I think that was a Freudian slip, but totally appropriate for what we were talking about before and what we're talking about right now. Meaning the nothing lacking, nothing missing is a part of you tapping into who you are now and who you are becoming, such that the promises that have been made to you, whether these are things that you made to yourself, whether they're things that you believe are inspired by God or your higher power, whatever you believe. But for you specifically, Craig, it's that that reflection, that time of reflection and getting back to doing those things that are really important to you as it relates to self-care, whether that's the outside and more importantly, the inside things helps us to get to that now, to get to that destination a lot quicker without going around the mountain for 40 years because we're clear on what it is that we're supposed to be doing and why. And this is like what we're picking up with. Sometimes it seems like we're not worthy of those things that are to come in OW now or are to come in the future because of the things that we've done in the past. Because of those feelings of, dang, I've been so bad. I haven't treated people right. I haven't done this. I haven't done that. We haven't forgiven ourselves and we haven't forgiven others. And so sometimes we don't feel worthy of the good things that are happening to us in the relationships that we're building or the ideas that we have or the dreams that we continue to dream that we haven't done anything with because we're scared.
And that's the key. It's the fear there that I know I can speak to the fact that I have because if I actually lived fearless, right? And if we
Mhm.
lived out our faith and our belief, and no matter what it is, if you believe that and you live that all the way out, you could do
Mhm.
damn near anything.
Mm.
But
Mhm.
so often we do live out our faith and our belief
Mm.
because some of us don't believe in anything. And so don't believe
Mm.
that we can do anything. So that's exactly what we get. So the truth is in our knowing, the KNOWing, we
Mhm.
we know that we don't believe in
Yeah.
any, we know that we are gonna get a no from the Lord because we're inserting it ourselves, then yeah,
Mm.
get that. You're not going
Mhm.
to get the things that you want. You're not going to fall in love. You're not going to get the job or create the business or write the book or the movie or the
Mhm.
song or be a parent or have whatever it is, if marry again, whatever the topic of
Mm.
the that you inserted before God responded, you're going to
Mhm.
get, we're going to get all of that because
Mhm.
we know our KNOW is that we inserted a no in NO in front of God's response.
Yes.
So
Yes.
even if the Lord sent it, which he won't because we don't believe,
Mm.
we wouldn't know and recognize KNOW, know what it
Mhm.
looked like
Yes.
because it doesn't look like what we asked for because
Mm.
we put a no in front of it.
Mhm.
It's
Mm.
bananas. I refuse to live that way anymore.
Man. So I'm gonna pop this up here real fast.
Mhm,
So for many, many years, I've been teaching around the nation, around the world, around fear, and it's something that has gripped me.
mhm,
It's something that I have felt in different moments and stages of my life, and
mhm.
there are typically seven, or excuse me, six that are talked about that are very common, like fear of rejection, fear of the unknown, fear of looking bad, all of these different things that research has taught us
Yeah.
around fear. About 15 years ago, this came into my heart, that the fear of success, which had not been discussed before, to my knowledge, I did my own research on it. Like, okay, did I hear this somewhere before, or is this actually coming to me?
Mhm.
But it was actually coming to me, that it's this feeling of not feeling worthy of the good that comes based on the bad that we have done.
Yeah.
And it's this feeling that keeps coming up, that every time we get close to what we think is for us,
Yeah.
sometimes we self sabotage. Sometimes the lack of knowing, like, the next step
Yeah.
keeps us in this stuckness. And we've talked about this so many times before, around being stuck and not moving forward.
Yeah.
And so we want to really address this part of it, because there are so many things that we could be doing, that
Mhm.
we know we should be doing, that we're holding ourselves back from, and other times it's people are holding us back. It's people that we've allowed into a space in our life. You talked
Mhm.
about access before, Craig, when we were in,
Mhm.
in another episode. But sometimes it's people, sometimes it's us. Most of the times it's us, because we're holding on to something that that no longer is serving us and keeping us from moving into that space where all of these other things will be added to us by
Yeah.
focusing on that faith, by overcoming that fear, by moving in spite of the fear. So love to hear your take on how fear has held you back, or um, how has this fear of success showed up in your life recently?
Well, that quote is lived out in my life daily by watching my little puppies run around.
Okay.
So our puppies have been trained that we keep these baby gates around in the house to not allow them into certain places in the house where I don't want them, the kitchen or over in the front room, because my little dog, I've got two, Phil and Claire from Modern Family names, So
And he's
Phil,
never seen an episode, by the way. This is something we're going to do on Thanksgiving. We're going to
yeah,
stream some Modern Family, so Craig can get caught up and understand the true personalities of his animals there.
the white puppies, yeah. And Phil knows how to jump up on the chairs to get onto the
Mhm.
table. So
Mhm.
that's the main reason why we keep them out of the front room. But we've stopped even attaching the little baby gates to the wall
Okay.
because they don't jump on the gates anymore. Just
Mm.
the knowledge of them seeing the gate is enough for them
Mm.
to know that, well, the last 15 times I jumped on the gate, I couldn't knock it over. So I'm
Mm.
not supposed to be on there. So it's not going to go anywhere. So I don't try.
Mm. Mm.
When in reality, if that dog even breathed on the gate,
Right.
it falls over because I didn't secure it. And I look at that in my life as things in my life that I want or
Mhm.
want to do and
Mhm.
chose not to do because what I'm looking at appears to be a barrier of some sort. I'm immediately agreeing that that barrier means that I don't go through,
Right.
and that there's no door, or no allowable access for me to get through. And I have to stop living that way. And a real life example that I'll share is I went to a trade show once, and there was a gate that was once open before, so the vendors could get through, because I was a vendor supporting a company that I contract for. That was then closed after the appropriate hour. Had to go move a car outside, and all of a sudden we're locked. So the question becomes, do I try the gate where people are walking through, or do I walk all the way around to the front and add another 10 minutes to my journey? Children of Israel thing, 40 years. I walked up to the gate. It was closed. I just assumed that it was locked. Oh, the closed gate meant no. I walked about 10 steps away from it, and somebody behind me walked up to that same closed gate and realized that there was no lock on there. There was a locking mechanism that caught the gate to keep it from swinging open, but there was nothing that prevented anyone from pulling that hook and pushing the gate open. And I turned around, I was like, you know what? Doggone it. I didn't even try to open that unlocked, though that door that wasn't locked. It was closed. It wasn't locked. So for me, I don't want to do that anymore. If there's anything in my life that I want to do, that I've been wanting to do, that I desire to do, I'm going to try the door. If there's a door there, I'm going to try the handle. I'm going to knock. I'm going to find out what's going on, because if I don't, I'll miss out on so many things that I've wanted deep down in here, that, like we talked about, I've disqualified myself, that I didn't think I was worthy of, because of something like you mentioned here, I've done bad in my life, or something that bad has happened to me, that I've agreed with, I must not be worth that, the good that anymore. I'm not living that way no more.
It's powerful. This is what came up for me when you were sharing. So many times when we fail to fail, we're failing to fail, meaning we're not even trying. So we fail before we even try.
Oh, yeah.
And I was there's so many stories in my head right now. So I'm gonna do my best to distill one of them and not ramble too much. There are times in our lives where sometimes we're dreaming and the dream doesn't seem to be happening, or we try it once and it's like, okay, well, that didn't work. I had a client, and we were maybe of 6 sessions, we had completed 4. And she was talking about the changes that she wanted to make, and all the things that she wanted to do. And so come the 4th session, or after the 4th session, she said, I don't think I'm going to continue with the service anymore. And I was like, okay. So that was a little disappointing to me, because clients are my bread and butter. This is not just something that I do. It's who I am. It's a part of how I built my reputation and helping others and being a coach. So I don't want to do this anymore. I've paid X amount of money and I haven't seen any changes, and I haven't done this. And then at the end, she said, I'm just not engaged. And I was like, that is it. This is not a me problem. Yeah. Because when I lifted out the 10 things that she had done and accomplished in 1 month, meaning promotion, a title and pay raise, opportunities to she's a newer supervisor manager, opportunities to rub elbows with her CEO, including getting a project with him directly, a seat at the table, expanding her knowledge, working on her health and fitness, establishing faith and wholeness and relationship with God, with her family, working on her relationship with her husband and her mom. Yeah, all of these things that I was able to list out to tell her, listen, it's your decision. I'm going to respect that you want to do this. However, this is how I see your life. This is how I see the change. And it's not because of me. It's because of your investment in yourself. It's because of your trying. Sometimes we can be so wanting to be so perfect and have everything, every I dotted, every T crossed, that we're not really trying to do anything differently. And we're not actually looking at the progress that we have made, because we're failing to fail. We're failing to look at our steps and the progress that we have had, and even taking one step toward saying, I want to do or want to be something different. So I think that there's a lot that we can learn when we do fail, even if it's what Albert Einstein or someone said, that's not who it is, Thomas Jefferson. He learned, who invented the light bulb?
Edison.
Edison. He said, I don't remember the exact number, but he invented the light bulb, and he said, hey, I did it, but I learned 1,000 ways or 150 ways or 10,000 ways not to do it because of the failure.
Yeah, I think it's amazing because it's all about a mindset and a choice.
Yeah.
If we choose to see the good, even in an L or a lesson, in a loss or a failure, then we're going to learn so much more about ourselves. Because when something bad happens to us, it's not always a bad thing. I mean, yeah, it's a bad thing. I get it. But we need to check our behavior about our decision of how to move forward based on something that happened in our life. And I know we have that as a quote to show us that when something bad happens to us, we don't have to just think that it sucks. I mean, it does suck. But the moment after suckage is what really defines who we are. You know what I'm saying? Just saying.
Can we find suckage, please?
Oh, suckage would be defined in my street dictionary, my urban dictionary, as
like a Craig 1 and 1.
Bad.
Suckage.
And suckage is a noun. It is a thing. It probably is a verb too, because some people would do suckage or are suckageable. But anyway, that's probably an adjective. So that's probably
a descriptor. Yeah, that adjective.
Describe it.
All right, I digress. Tell me more about this BAD and this acronym that you come up with, because this is amazing.
Well, I tell you what, I lost the boy's mom. Lost my wife a decade ago, right?
Right.
And I lived the last greater part of 10 years thinking that I sucked. I was always overweight. I never find love again, and I'll never be able to give my heart away. I'm free now because I'm not married, and there's a lot of things I took that were negative about myself that I agreed with, and none of them were true. Now, I'm not the best person in the world. I'm working on the issues.
You are.
Well, no,
you just can't talk about Aunt Eunice. Then I have an issue with. You are.
Well, I'm just saying in terms of people who live what do you call it? Confidence is the new currency, I believe, in my life.
Got it. Yeah.
So
I
didn't have the confidence to believe that I was worth more. I had placed such a doubt on myself. And I was in such a negative credit score in terms of what I believed about who I was and the love that I had for me. And so much so, and I'm going to tie it together, where I had a conversation with a friend just this morning before this recording, and he made mention of how he loved his wife and how he had never heard him say he loved him or he loved himself. And when we speak to people, we may or may not ever say that we love ourselves, but how we live is going to be an example of that love or lack thereof. And I stopped him. I asked him, I said, hey, let's go back. So I let him finish his thought, and I circle back to it, which sometimes we don't do enough of. Sometimes folks just need to ramble and vent, empty our purse. Of those who have a purse, I don't have a purse, but sometimes need to rent and vent, get that out of here. And then we went back. I said, you said you loved your wife, but do you love yourself? And his answer was no. I never have. And I said, well, then we got to start there, because so often when we lose something or something bad happens to us, our behavior about the decision to move forward becomes paramount in our life. Because if I choose based on what I view of myself, based on what has happened to me, or what someone else has said about me that I've come into agreement with, whether it's true or not, that's going to either mean I'm going to get there and get up and become better, or I'm going to stay laying on the ground, stay drunk, stay high, and stay some type of negative self-medicating that's never going to make me a good person again. And those are the kind of behaviors and mindsets that we've got to change and we've got to get away from. So when something happens, that bad dictates what we do next. Our behavior about a decision to move forward has got to be something positive to get us off that floor. Otherwise, we're going to be there like that dude laying at the pool of Bethesda. He laid there for so long. He had that illness for like 38 years. And he chose to lay there, making up excuse after excuse or agreeing with excuse after excuse for not being healed and getting up. When in reality, healing has probably come for all of us at least once, and we chose not to. I'm done. I want to be healed.
I think you're trying to take my job as the coach. That's what I think.
I'm good, man. That's why I love this show. Because I get a coach every week.
So powerful. Like, okay, so there's so many good things, nuggets in what you're saying. Number one, yes, I love the behavior about a decision as our new version of bad. Because I was sharing with Craig that when we assign labels to things, then there's an expectation of what happens after that. I talk about that in a blog around relationships and some other stuff. But there's actual psychological research, Crucial Conversations. If you all haven't read that book, read it. It's helpful in how to have difficult conversations when there are competing priorities, the emotions are high, those types of things. And they talk about this path of action and how what we see or what we heard creates a feeling. Then we create a story, and then that story creates the behavior. That's bad, right? That this is bad in essence in a psychological type of research way. And I also love that you said, do you love yourself? You know, confidence is your new currency. I think this would be this could actually be its own topic. You think about it. It took me a long time, or what I would say is a long time. I grew up with a certain level of confidence. As I got older, I got more confidence. I would say going into high school, I was probably as confident as I've ever been. I felt good about my body. I was working out. I used to run, you know, and I liked my size. I liked my shape. I liked the way I looked. I liked the way my makeup was. My hair was banging. You know, I mean, there were some really powerful moments that built my confidence. Oh, real life is happening. That's my brother. 1 second. In a meeting, call you back. All right. I loved myself. I loved the energy that I had. I had a lot of friends. I felt popular, so on and so forth. Got married very, very young. And I went on, it wasn't really even, it was necessary for me to go on this journey of losing my confidence, I believe, because now it's a part of my testimony and I'm able to help other women. But in the moments where my confidence were shaken the most in my marriages, or when these things happened that were out of my control or that I had no experience with, that I didn't know how to fix. And so everything at that point became about me and my internal struggle. Things that I never thought that were a struggle for me in the beginning, I then associated some of those things, were able to reassociate those things with things that were said to me in my childhood. Going somewhere with this. It took me a minute to regain my confidence when I was able to separate what was happening to me versus my thoughts about what was happening to me, or separate my thoughts from the person and their behavior did not have to be a reflection of me. Right. It was their decision. So there was some separating of myself, even based on the strong bond that marriages have. I still had to come and be my own self and rebuild myself, as David said, encourage myself to know that these things that were happening weren't as a result of anything that I did or didn't do, right? Because they weren't my decision. Right. And that helped me to rebuild my confidence. And now I'm like, I like me. Yeah. I love me. If you don't know me, you're missing out. That's how I feel. If you're not kicking it with Shell, you are missing out. And I don't kick it with everybody. I'm just saying you're missing out, because I'm one of my good sister friends. She also my beautician. Shout out to her. She said, we were talking about something about confidence and some of our dreams and stuff like that. She's like, Shell, you said before that people thought you this and that. She was like, you're pretty cool. I was like, I think so too. So you have to learn at some point that what happens to you sometimes is not about who you are. It is, but it's not. It's about who you're going to be, but it doesn't have to mean you have to take on ownership of those things that other people are doing and attach that to your work or the value that you place on yourself.
Because you're true, because everything that's happening to you or has happened to you is not a result of who you are. I do graphics now, or as I'm writing music now. I used to be scared to death to do graphics in front of a client and do some real-time editing. just because I was just afraid. I had that performance anxiety, and I used to want to make sure everybody knew how great or how well I played, even though on the inside I was terrified, right? And so I had to get to the point where if a client doesn't like my graphic, it has nothing to do with them not liking me. They
Right.
just didn't like that piece of work for
Right.
them and that application. That
Right.
work that I've created could still be applicable to someone else. So I learned something in the process of creating that graphic that I didn't learn how to do before. In fact, that just happened. I'm learning to use some artificial intelligence software, some AI graphic software. I wrote in the description of what I wanted, and out comes this piece of art that I was like,
Wow.
oh, that's wonderful to use. It was exactly what I saw in my head, but currently I don't know how to draw that well, that detail. But the client didn't like the presentation, but that's okay because I learned something new along the way that's going to only make my work better as I move forward. So what people say about you is not a negative reflection about who you are on the inside. It's just maybe applied to what you're doing at the moment, or you done at a moment, or the work that you may have provided. But it's not a knock on as long as you know and can stand up to the fact that that's not who I am, then you're going to be fine.
I think you're talking, and we're kind of talking around some things too, because we do this in relationships where, like I was sharing about the relationship that I had and having to rebuild my confidence. Sometimes our confidence can be broken down so badly that we don't know if we're ever find that love again or be able to engage in a relationship, because a new relationship, no matter what the title of that relationship is, because of the things that have happened in this other relationship. And so we bring that drama with us, and it's almost like building up ourselves becomes this blessing and a curse sometimes, because it's like, am I really worthy? I have a quote, is something around, I'll find it in a minute, but something around, is what I expect like what I really deserve, right? And that goes along with that worthiness and the longing for the relationship, or the longing for something new, or the promise, or what have you, to happen. But then but it should I be expecting that based on what happened before and how we hurt ourselves in the process, in that sometimes in that exploration of getting off that X, of being so logical, being so focused on facts instead of sometimes listening to our heart or our gut, which are more emotional responses. I'm not saying 90% of what we do is emotional. If you don't associate it and bring it up here in your your cortex. But at the end of the day, this is what we assign to people, and this is what we assign to ourselves, and it holds us back.
A couple things have come through just for what you're talking about, getting off the X of being so logical, because for some of us, the logic that's being dictated is illogical. Because just because you failed in a relationship doesn't mean you're going to fail in the next relationship. And just because the relationship failed doesn't mean I'm a failure.
Correct.
And sometimes the relationship just failed. And true, if we never can do 100% of our part in anything, but we're not 100% the reason of anything failing. Now, granted, if you cheated and if you were, drunk and alcoholic and you beat your spouse, okay, then that's all you. You know what I'm saying? That's all you.
But even in that, I'm not encouraging anybody to stay in a situation like that.
Right.
When a person chooses to change their behavior, sometimes relationships do reconcile, and that was a moment in time, and it wasn't a lifestyle. Lifestyle, no. Come holler at me on Everyday Conversations with Dr. Knight. Abuse is not okay. Yeah. But even in that moment of failure, there's still a learning. There is still an opportunity if both people are actually willing to do the 100% to redeem themselves and get the help that they need.
But the problem with that can happen with that is sometimes the people who are doing the 100% to redeem themselves, the person they did the damage to do we ever allow them to be redeemed in our eyes? Is it ever enough?
Yeah, I know, and
You know?
that's why you're at church. No, absolutely, absolutely.
And that's
I don't care
terrible.
how much. I don't. We go back to the apology and change behavior. I wanted to insert that there because I know there are some people out here that might think, oh, I'm done for staying, but their husband or wife, whoever is doing the harm, whoever did the harm, they learned a valuable lesson from being a cheater and were able to change their lives, or they
Sure.
learned a valuable lesson around alcoholism and now they never touch a drink again. There are a few stories that I know that is true. So I want to leave people with hope, but also the reality that you're right. That's a long journey, and I would never, ever, ever suggest that anyone put themselves. I know another young lady putting herself in a situation where she is already second in a relationship. She has a baby with this guy, and he has a girlfriend. She knew that he didn't want to be with her. Went through with having the baby. Not saying she was wrong for that, but to expect him to be anything other than what he's telling you and other than what he's behaving like, you're setting yourself up for 18 to 20 plus years, a lifetime
Yeah.
of hurt, of harm, because you're not seeing this person for who they really are. And I think that's what you're saying. I think that's what you're saying.
Yeah. And that's the thing. In what you're saying there is we want to hold people emotional or relational hostage. You cannot be held emotionally or relationally hostage in a relationship. We cannot hold ourselves mentally also hostage in our own relationship with ourselves, because we'll never allow ourselves to be viewed as changed, or we may never even try to change, even if we've managed to survive a relationship that failed.
Yeah.
Right? Because sometimes some of us who've lived, for instance, a death, have survivor's remorse.
Yeah.
And it's not just for those who had a death type of loss in a relationship. Sometimes the relationship failed. We lost a job. We may have lost a house. But since we survived that tragedy, we didn't necessarily make best of our bad situation. We didn't change our behavior about a decision. We need to make sure that we do that as a result to this, because it's a mindset change. We've got to talk about in here what's really going on in here, because what's going on in here affects everything that's going on out here, from high blood pressure to migraines to form of self-care, whether it be alcoholism or excess drug use, whether it's legalized drug
Self-medication.
or illegalized drugs. We've got to make sure that the choices that we're making about a decision are positive. Otherwise, we're going to be stuck for life.
Yeah, it's this is real. The survivor's guilt and survivor's remorse, and as a result, identifying that and changing your mindset. My husband went through that before we were married. We were talking, and those of you who know Steve, he's a retired Navy SEAL, and so he's seen a lot. Did 3 tours back to back, broke his back active duty, lost a lot of friends, a lot of family members along the way, and because he survived, there was this feeling that he wasn't worthy of living, and worthy of the good that happened to him, and that happened with me in a divorce. Also, with my divorces, also in terms of now living in this promised land, with my current husband, if you will. And nobody's perfect. No relationship is perfect. It's perfect for me. And so, but dealing with what we deal with, and then knowing that we have these divorces, it's almost like, dang, well, we were able to survive that, and then looking back, and some of the people that we were married to, and they're still in the same spot that they were in 20 plus years ago. And I've learned that, again, I had to disassociate myself from their behavior and their outcomes that they controlled through the decisions that they made. My mom used to say, you have 100% control, or my mom does say, you have 100% control over the decision you make, right? Over the choice that you make, but you have zero control over the consequences of that decision. Right. And I think we have a topic that we're going to talk about later on. We were just kind of teasing about it. But this is gonna cost us something, and was it worth it? We had a similar topic. I can't remember the exact phrase, and my brain is on overload right now, because this is so important that we get this piece around holding ourselves hostage, putting ourselves in a spot where we're the ones that's holding us back because of the mindset that we choose to adopt when we don't like the outcome of something, instead of flipping it around and going, wow, I got another chance to get this right. I survived because it was meant for me to survive, and I'm not responsible. I didn't do any harm to the person who's still stuck over here, but living my best life. Number one, for those of you who want to get revenge, I always say living your best life is revenge. You don't need to do any harm to this person over here. Do you imagine the hell and the jail that they're in within themselves when they see where they could be or where they're not? I'm not saying I'm the best person for everybody. I'm saying that in my relationship, in my love relationships, and the marriage that I have now, we are the best for one another. And we would never have gotten that if we would have stayed in the space of I'm not worthy and look at all these failures that I experienced. Those experiences helped us to become the person that we are, and understanding that we're here with a purpose. We're here with a purpose. And if you're still alive, if you survived some of life's most devastating moments, you have an opportunity. There's hope to get it right.
Yeah, I love it, because you're basically saying we have to live beyond the loss, whether it be losses of relationships of family, and just loss of who we were or who we wanted to be. And it's okay. We have to, like you said, flip it and do those things. And I got a chance to do that I got to do that some time ago recently, so not too long ago. I saw somebody I hadn't seen in years. And the natural thing that I wanted to do, because that relationship was severed in a pretty nasty way, and I don't like the way I used to be when Tyrone used to come out. And put my Tyrone definition was, I associated Tyrone with the side of my life that when I needed something bad to happen or a revenge factor, I just called Tyrone because he'll take care of it, right? But no, he didn't use my phone. But I'm just saying, I got a chance to really be myself when I saw that person. And I knew that if I didn't go down and speak and be cordial, that the turd is going to be in my pocket, meaning the Lord had told me to go down and do it. And I was already feeling some kind of way about not going down, not saying nothing. And I was getting all frustrated, and because I knew they weren't making any effort to come and see me. Right. But I can't control. It's like your mom said, I have 100% control over my actions, my decisions, my behavior about a decision. But I don't have any control at all about what their behavior is going to be. So I took care of me. I went and spoke. I was cordial. And that revenge factor for me was to be able to show them that, hey, I can look you in my eye, look at you in your eye. And not have a nasty glare coming back at you anymore. I can smile genuinely, not because I'm smiling at you, but I'm smiling because, you know what, you didn't get me. And I want to make sure that you know that you didn't get me. So I have the love, that agape love that I have for the Lord for you. I don't have to like you at all. My mandate is to love you with the love of the Lord, period. I don't have to be in your presence. I don't have to sit by you. I really don't have to talk to you, but I can't, while we're talking, I can't be nasty to you. I can't treat you some negative sort of way. I can't patronize you, but I also have to set a boundary to not let you run over me as well, to be somewhere hurtful to myself or my family. So no, living beyond the loss looks like progress. And that's what I'm looking for in my life. I want progress. I want better. I want to smile again, genuinely. I want to laugh genuinely without that person's name, face, or whatever coming up, and I get this like gut punch. And they come, and I think, but no, I'm good. You can miss me with all that. You're over there. I'm over here. I'll come and say, hey, wave from distance. We can chit chat for a second, chop it up. But when I'm done, 5 minutes of fun, I'm out the door. I'm back to my regularly scheduled life programming. And I don't have to worry about them.
So many points that you make. Number one, we talked about not feeling some kind of way in somebody's presence by the trigger of their presence. And that's a real thing too. Triggers are going to happen. You can't stop a trigger, if you will. You can't. You have to acknowledge that it's a trigger, and that's how you pull yourself out, right? okay, that person is feeling some kind of way when this person comes into the room. That's your opportunity to check yourself. Why are you feeling that way? And why are you giving that person the control? So that's number one. Number two, what you were talking about is conviction.
Mm-hmm.
And I had a conversation with Caitlin, my 9-year-old princess, and she didn't tell the truth about something.
Mm.
And this was maybe the second time that she wasn't completely, we talked about leaving out, omission being still a lie.
Yep.
It was the second time that we've had a conversation around my triggers, lying, cheating, and stealing. So I've always told the boys that, my two biological sons, Taylor and Lawrence, like, listen, these are the rules. These are the rules. And based on that hurt of the past, not only is lying not a good thing, but, I commented telling her this, how did you feel when mommy and brother were talking to you? She started crying. Said, how did you feel when you were crying? And I said, actually, why did you start crying?
Mm.
And talking to a 9-year-old. So why were you crying when you were telling me and brother about, telling the truth? And she said, I don't know. I said, no, think about it. Think about it just for 1 second. And we were driving and she was quiet. And she said, because I knew it was wrong.
Yeah.
And I said, and then after you told the truth, how did you feel? I said, because now she's laughing and, eyes are not puffy anymore. She's asking questions. She's engaging in conversation. She said, I feel pretty good.
Yeah.
And I said, that's because when we don't tell the truth, when we don't speak truth, when we don't honor truth within ourselves, and we were also talking about the different, like God and Jesus and, just letting her know like the functions of the presence. And I said, but that's literally Jesus in your heart and in your stomach telling you, hey, you don't feel good because you're not doing the right thing. And how when I think about faith or belief as a child, and she's 9 and can understand that, how many times as adults do we override that? And we don't apologize, or you don't get up and go speak to someone, and how that is your bag of turds to carry. And as my husband says, you could polish a turd, but it's still a turd.
Still a turd.
So it's still or he says also you could put lipstick on a pig, but it's still a pig. Not going there with y'all today. So it's important that we recognize the feeling that we have when something is not aligned to the truth of who we are, the truth of who we are becoming, and the truth of we are worthy. We are worthy of those things when we can acknowledge what has actually happened and what is done to reconcile that within ourselves to realign with where we're supposed to be. Part of that is conviction.
And learning our and accepting our part.
Our part, absolutely.
Not their part. I can't do nothing about their part. Their part may still piss me off, but their part is not my part. My part is my part, and that's it. And I love this part here. Truth will make you free.
Yes.
And there's so often, like you mentioned, in kind of talking about pulling out of what you're saying, truth makes you a slave, keeps you bound, keeps you held up, keeps you captive. Into your past, into your situation, it keeps you from changing.
Wait, truth or the lie?
The lie. Sorry. The lie or the omission or not admitting our part, accepting our part, will keep us bound and held up and captive to the past. And if we talk about living beyond the loss, we've got to be able to shake that off, right? And let that stuff go. And so our conscience can be free, right? To use the rap song, So I want to be able to be free. I don't want to be bound to anything or anyone because of something that I think that they need for me, or need from me, said I do or I didn't, or whatever it is. I want to own my part.
Yes.
And leave the rest to God to sort out, because I can barely control me.
I don't think you try very hard, though.
I can't no more.
You said I can't. Okay, I got it.
You know what I'm saying? But here's the thing. If we try to control ourselves, that means we're not accepting and taking responsibility for the urges that we have. Instead of doing like you mentioned before, you spoke it out. You said we have to go through and understand what we're talking about, what are the thoughts that are coming up, and deal with them, take responsibility for them,
Yes.
right?
Yes.
And put them in their proper places. And sometimes their places is locked up and bound in a pit or given away to the Lord so the Lord can have those behaviors, right? So that if we can give away all of that stuff and then sit back and wait for the Lord to show us how to move. When he say move, I'll move. You know what I'm saying? Just like that. So it's easy. You know what I'm saying?
Yes.
Because then I don't have to worry about controlling me.
Yes. Yeah.
All I do is follow, because if I'm controlling me and something goes wrong, then it's me to blame. Well, you know what? The Lord told me to do this, this, and that.
Period.
So when its outcome is done, I can't worry about it. I did what the Lord wanted me to do. The outcome was what it was. Okay. It was what it was. Sometimes it's based on someone else's response, which I can't do anything about. Did I do my part? Yeah. Those of us who love football, did I make that block? Did I get to the hole in time? Did I get there? Did I do my part? Did I run the right route? Did I really release the ball as a quarterback on time, on target? Did I hand the ball off to the running back? Did I as a running back, did I hit the hole on time? Did I accelerate? Did I follow my block? Cornerbacks, you got to be. Did I cover right? Did I have the right inside leverage? You know what I'm saying? So if the play doesn't go as planned, do we know we did our part? Whether or not the goal was achieved, we have to be able to sleep well with the fact that I did my part. And sometimes, even though if everyone involved does their part, and the outcome is still not a W, you still can sleep well, because that just meant you weren't going to win that day no matter how you played. But if we know that we didn't do our part, I didn't try, I didn't give 100, I didn't even give 10.
That's where the guilt is.
Exactly. And we got to be at 100 with ourselves to say, really, what did we do? And that's where a lot of us fail. We don't want to admit our part in any situation, unless it's a W. If it's an L, I wasn't responsible. It's somebody else's fault.
Yeah. No, that's definitely a part of the forgiveness series that we're going to be talking about here in a few weeks or so. The other thing that came to my mind, there's always two things in my brain. Oh my gosh, I just realized that's better. You were talking about letting go, and I was in a session with someone, and I gave the example, and I don't know if I shared it here, so I don't want to go through the whole thing, but I talked about the example of a tetherball. When we played tetherball when we were kids, when you're tethered to the past, you just keep going round and round. You hitting the ball, but it ain't going nowhere. Except around that pole and tightening and gripping you around your neck. So we have to let go of the past in the way of, through that acknowledgement of, this was my part, and that's all you can own. Learn what you need to learn. Put your bootstraps up and keep it pushing. The other thing that keeps us sometimes feeling like we're not worthy, as you were talking, I was thinking about justification before our call today, is we sometimes feel like we feel compelled. Whenever I say feel, I want to give a feeling instead of like. We feel compelled, or this pull to justify why we've done something or why we have something.
Sure.
And that's for people that are not connected, don't understand, have not gone through what you've gone through, but yet we feel we need to justify why I have what I have. No, I don't. I don't owe any justification. That's what I told the young lady who was on the call with before. You don't owe anyone a justification.
Right.
Your life is reason enough.
Yeah.
It's your decision. It's your path.
Yeah.
And if I want a path like yours, and I have to go down what you went through, I don't want that. I barely want the path that I had to go down to get what I got, So stop justifying why you're not doing something. If there's a reason that you need to explain to someone, and you choose to explain why you did X, Y, and Z, you're before the judge, you better give justification, okay?
Yeah.
No question about it. But these people that we allow access into our lives, or have so much to say about what we are worthy or what we're not worthy of, or questioning or comparing what I have based on my worthiness of how they value me. No, Stop that. That's for the birds, because
Yeah.
we'll never be able to please 100% of the people 100% of the time. We can barely please ourselves 100% of the time, let alone another person. So stop giving people that level of access to your life now, present, future, or even have an opinion about your past. I'm gonna drop that right there.
Because and I love that, because it's like we talked about and you shared about the gate at your home. Sometimes though that gate may or may not be the gate may be unlocked, that still doesn't
Hmm.
allow folks the privilege of coming and going as they please.
Absolutely,
They still get
absolutely.
permitted access. And sometimes we go out and we open that gate or that door, like you mentioned, to
Hmm.
our lives, and it allows people to have a conversation about an
Yes,
input or feel that they are because we brought it up. I've actually
yes.
started to do a lot of editing of my text messages and emails to friends or clients or whatever, because I can be a long-winded person. I can be a detailed
Mm,
person, largely
hmm.
because I was looking for justification and acceptance for what I was doing.
Yes, yes.
So I would write out all these things where I can't deliver on this day because of this and this and that, or
Mm-mm.
I wanted to go this place. I'm like, no, look, I'll write it out and I go, that's not their, they don't need to have that information. So I'll cut
Yep.
it back. This is going to be delivered on next day because not because that's it. This is
Yes,
what's available. I can't do it
yes,
any sooner. This set the proper expectations. And I don't
yes.
expect there to be any, you know, back and forth about that unless it's, hey, I really need it on this day. Can you, from a business standpoint, but even
Hmm.
dealing with friends, I'm not coming today. I can't do that today. I can't do that. I
Hmm.
can't go to lunch today. I can't go to dinner. I can't go
Hmm.
to this event. I don't need to give you a why. I'm just
Yep.
not available. Something has come up. I need to handle this. I don't need you to wade in on what I'm doing. I don't need you to offer me
Right.
any alternative because, and it's not like I don't trust the person anymore.
Hmm.
But in some cases, I don't need another person to tell me how to live my life if I've already gotten the guidance from what I need to do. If my business or my family needs me to handle something, then I
Hmm.
need to handle that up versus, oh, I can't go today because I got to go over here. I got to go do this. And
Hmm.
not necessary. I
Yeah.
don't need any feedback.
Yeah.
I don't need no
Trust
help.
is it. We grew up with this young lady who English was her second language, and she had some mental illness challenges that were well known, documented. And she used to say, "I don't need no help." We like, but you do.
Yeah.
But a lot of times we don't need no help. I don't need no help. I've made a decision, or I'm thinking through what the decision is going to be. And you're absolutely right that that acceptance or that approval, that validation sometimes causes us to go into so much more than we actually need to. I've been doing the same thing also, uh, like starting an email and wanting to be very clear.
Mhm.
And I'm finding that when I am concise and I'm communicating what it
Mhm.
is that that person is actually asking me,
Mhm.
looking at that question again, not my opinion about how they worded the question,
Yeah.
not what have you, giving them the answer to the question
Yeah.
based on my knowledge, my experience, period,
Yeah.
is all they're really looking for anyway. The
Yeah.
rest of that, they're not really reading it. And sometimes too much gets convoluted
Yeah.
and they
Yeah.
start thinking or asking questions that that they didn't even think about before. Well, this is the third time he's been late. I wonder how many. Oh, maybe it's something with the kids, or maybe it's something with. No, I'm not asking for permission to change the date. What I'm saying is, I'm communicating that this is what I can do, right? And that's what we need to do is communicate what we can do. And
And
when
that's
we
it.
can't do something,
Yeah.
then it's what I this date doesn't work for me. This is what I can do, and so opening up that door for conversation or confirmation versus validation and justification, I think is really what we're saying.
Yeah, because we can definitely stand at the door and talk to a person and versus opening the door, stepping back and inviting them in. I don't invite people into my house very often. So people know
Mm,
I tell my kids, who I'm really down with and
mm-hmm,
ride with if I
mm-hmm,
talk about them in my daily conversation,
mm-hmm,
if you all have met them,
mm-hmm.
or if they've been in my house.
Yep. Yep, absolutely.
And I said, let's prove it to you. Name the people that I talk about. Name the people that I have introduced you to. Name the people
Of
who've been to
course,
our house.
I'm number one.
Of course,
Hayden,
always, always.
Jackson,
Oh yeah, oh yeah,
Evan, Ryan,
yeah. Exactly. So they were able to walk that through. But
Shame.
I've given the rest of the people who I'm dealing with the boundary that, look, if I'm not inviting you over, or even when I have clients come,
Yes,
we don't
true.
go through the front door. We go through the
Mm.
office door.
Mm-hmm.
I'm blessed to have a situation where I don't have to walk anybody all the way through my house, so my sons can feel like their house is the house and they can
Safety.
be
Yeah,
safe. You know what I'm saying?
privacy.
If someone needs to use a restroom, I'll say, "Hey, so and so needs to use a restroom." But I don't have a situation where a client would need to stay long enough to normally have to use the restroom. You know,
Yes.
usually we're pick up, drop off, whatever,
Yeah,
and we're on the move. Now, moving
right.
forward, yes, I would love to have a better, larger situation to have a client and deal with, especially with clothing design or whatever. But for right now,
Yeah,
that's not a situation. But I promise
yeah,
you, if we alter our mindset and really spend a lot of time believing
yes.
in what God has for us. And again, if those of us who don't believe in God, like Michelle said, you pick your higher power, you pick the atmosphere, you pick the universe, whatever you want to call it, it all leads to the same synonymous term. Something
Mm-hmm.
that's greater than you, that you
Mm-hmm.
believe is the lead and guide of your mindset and your heart and your life. You
Mm-hmm.
got to believe that that situation is better for you and it's better off, because I know for facts that atheists or those who believe in the devil as their God, they
Mm.
believe wholeheartedly in what they believe. But yet, as Christians, we often get the mantra,
Shy
"Oh,
away.
shy away," or you don't take all that, or you're a Christian
Mm-hmm.
fanatic, and it's a negative connotation. It's not cool to be a Christian. It's not cool to believe in God. It's cool to believe in all these other wonderful things. So we have a tendency to I want to roll with this thing, when reality is I have to believe wholeheartedly, 100%, all out of who I
Mm-hmm.
am and what I believe, and then live that life to the full.
Absolutely. Absolutely. And the end part of that is receiving what belongs to you.
Yeah.
Be receiving without justification or question or doubt
Yeah.
that you don't deserve what you got. We believe, see, that's the thing. We believe the opposite is true. We
Yeah.
think that we deserve the bad things that happen to us because of the bad things that we've done.
Yep.
And those of you who believe in karma, I mean, yeah, what you reap, what you sow, you reap, right?
Yeah.
There's still that element of there,
Yeah.
but we rarely get to the point where we start communicating in a way where what we have that is good for us, your business, your family, the contracts that you're getting,
Sure.
the travel opportunities that you have, the connections that you're making, the show, more shows, doing music,
Yeah.
writing books,
Yeah.
research. We rarely associate that to being worthy. So we have to get to the point where we understand that it's a process to get there. At the end of the day, if you know what the promise is, and you know that you're getting closer to that, or you're in that space where it's happening and you can see it, know that you're also worthy, and that you would not have it if it was not time. You
Yeah.
would not have it if it was not yours. And you are deserving.
Yeah. And that's a great place to land this episode. And also, if you have any comments or questions, feel free to email us on Knight&Craig show@gmail.com. Hit us on social media at Knight&Craig.
Mm-hmm.
Also, Knight&Craig show we're on Instagram
Yeah.
and all of our socials. I'm sure it's out there. This episode was already recorded before we got to that point of having all fancy stuff. But hey, hit us up out there, follow and leave a comment, join the family, write, subscribe, tell a friend, share, whatever you need to do. If you want to be a guest in the program, or if you have a
Absolutely.
topic, send us, reach out. And I tell you, if you need a coach, Dr. Knight is the one. I know some of the great coaches out there. No shade to the other coaches I know, but hey,
Lots of folks.
my cousin is she's on top. Love y'all.
Love you back. Bye.
Akin to win, I don't mean to offend. The greatest on the mic, mightiest with the pen. Losing never been a choice, but the line is the same. Ascending, word bending, burns, birthed in the gym. Akin to the best, never aiming for less. Opposition so foul, got me calling for rest. Who's next to get bested? Mind, soul, and flesh is antithesis of mess. It's the precious of green. Hold on, you better catch a God throwing blessings. Dreams manifest, did you get what I mean? God always had a plan, he created for me. Success only means that I did what he seen. Got the game and the fans locked